Make no attempt to reload your device. You are now entering the Hellhole.
Hello, la la la. Welcome back to the Hellhole. What the fuck is that? Great. Getting dust on my desk. Welcome back to the Hellhole. We're live, pal. And I'm having a nice time revisiting some classic X-Men trading cards. So, of course, we gotta conclude business. Let's try to do this relatively briskly, shall we? We got a nice little fat stack. If you head to the archive, you can see the front half. This is just my collection. It's not a complete set, unfortunately, but, you know, I'm enjoying checking these out. Very nostalgic. We're kicking things off straight away. So we're into the villains section. We've done the heroes. The series is sort of divided into different subgroups. Heroes, villains, miscellaneous. We'll try to get to them all. We're kicking off with Exodus. That's a pretty nice one. I really like this artist. Who is this? I think it's Frank Sriracho. So I'm not sure if that's how that should be said. This guy's got like a, you know, it's a very sort of like graphic pen almost style. It's very comic book appropriate, but it's got a little bit of the painted flourish of the background. I like that. These are predominantly painted looking cards. They're painted finishes. So it's interesting when you get sort of, it really stands out. It shouldn't stand out as much as it is because these are based on comic books, obviously, but I like that. That's a nice Exodus card. It's maybe lacking a little bit in grandeur. I feel like this character, particularly this time, was a little bit mysterious, a little bit sort of grandiose. He was sort of the head acolyte of Magneto sort of around this time, maybe not quite at this time. That's a nice one. Always dig these card backs. We've already talked about the wireframe. Enjoyed that. I mean, these are coming out in 1994. The wireframe is still cutting. It feels cutting edge. It might not actually be cutting edge. You know, CG had been around a little while. You get a lot of claimers to the early stuff, but, you know, the wireframe still feels quite cutting edge at that time. Dig that. Let's keep powering through. We got a couple of Ahabs here. Ahab was sort of like is he Days of Future Past? He's like a Sentinel guy. Looks kind of weird, I don't know, but to me he was very familiar because he's on the cover of X-Men Annual number 14, which was the first X-Men comic I ever got. If you can believe that. I always felt like I came in pretty late because that's the annual for 1990. Technically the first appearance of Gambit, although not widely recorded as that. It is the first comic that came out. I think there's I forget what the number is. It's in the 200s, like 280s maybe. Is listed as the first Gambit. Gambit feels like he's a character that could be, I feel like 1987 is like about as early as Gambit might legitimately come from. So it feels strange that he's a 1990 character. So Ahab's sort of like Sentinel of Future. He's messing with Rachel Summers, Phoenix, and he's got this like big spear. He's like a Sentinel guy kind of thing. I don't know. Because of that Days of Future Present annual storyline, and because that X-Men comic happened to be one of the first I got, and it's one that I really love. I am thinking about, like, maybe we'll do a little read along or look at it or something. Because of that, I always thought, you know, Ahab was kind of cool. Hey, speaking of cool, I mean, obviously the return of X-Men 97 has been a big inspiration for digging back into X-Men, and who should show up in X-Men 97 but X-Cutioner, who is just a radical character. He just looks awesome. This is a great rendering. This is, man, can't read these names. That can't be right. Oh, Chris Merler? I don't know. These names are challenging me. Moeller. I thought it was a D. This is a great card. Always thought this was one of the great villain cards. You know, I love the Magneto. Apocalypse is pretty good. This is a really good one. I like this. This is a very exciting image. This series, as I've already said, was like the design of the card itself, the sort of, it's not trade dress, but you know, the general design. I've recreated it on the screen. I'm enjoying very much that my stream looks like a trading card. I'm not gonna lie. I had a lot of fun with that. But yeah, this is the kind of stuff, like, you pulled this out of packs at that time. It felt magical. It felt like it was an upgrade for sort of Marvel cards that hadn't necessarily gone the painterly route. That's very frustrating. Marvel Masterpieces 92, I guess, was one of the early painted ones by Joe Driscoll. Here's another like wild, like very, very exciting painted image. Black Tom Cassidy. This would be like around the time of the Deadpool miniseries, both of them. This might be maybe the first one. I forget if it's 93, 94 or something like that, or maybe 94, 95. I forget, but yeah, he's got like some sort of infection thing going on. I always thought it looked like, you know, as a kid, you know, I would always think like if you get a splinter, you know, like I didn't really believe this would happen, but you know, like there'd be that saying of like, what's that? Is there like there's like a nursery rhyme or fairy tale thing about like a apple tree growing out your ear or something? I don't know what it was. I would imagine like if I got a splinter, I'm gonna get like a wood arm. You know, I didn't really think I would, obviously, but I was just a kid mucking around. Come on, get off my case, man. That's a nice one. That's I don't know why I'm trying to read these names. The lighting is not catching the card. Tristan Shane. I don't recognize some of these names from earlier in the set. I don't know if it's just that I'm missing them or what. That's got to be Sienkiewicz. Yeah, this is, you can spot the Sienkiewicz straight away. Wow, like what an image. It's got that same issue to me where like a lot of the Sienkiewicz cards, they don't quite hit the mark for me. This one's good. It's hitting, like, he's really honed in on the details of like the stretched out like eyes and stuff, almost like the Clockwork Orange torture or something. You know, it's honing in on the Mojo design. This is Mojo, if you didn't notice. I know the light's not catching the gold foil as well as it could. This is Mojo. Not quite, you know, not. Your choices with Mojo are essentially you capture the like blob, the fat blob element, the Jabba the Hutt of it, you know, with the mechanical legs, or you go in tight for the crazy sort of wild-eyed, stretched out for maximum viewing in the Mojoverse. You know, it's that kind of stuff. It's commentary on the television era, which is I guess it stretches to the internet era, really. You know, this is you kids. This is your brain on TikTok. Put the damn phone down. I like this, but it's not quite the pinup, which is maybe what I would prefer from a trading card. That's usually my grievance with the Sienkiewicz cards. Although, like, Sienkiewicz, absolute legend, love the comics and stuff. We got a Wendigo. That's pretty cool. Wendigo is sort of one of those characters where you might not think of Wendigo necessarily if you're rattling off villains, but obviously a big one. First appearance of Wolverine, tangling with the Hulk and Wolverine. Wolverine's commissioned to deal with it. It's sort of I don't know how faithful it is to Northern American, Native American mythology of the Wendigo, but I like the comic version. It's pretty exciting. Obviously, comics are not necessarily there to be beholden to the mythology that inspires them. Sometimes, you know, it's good that they can create something new out of it, but I don't know. You know, your mileage will vary, but I think this is a pretty cool card. Menacing the Hunter, which is well rendered. Good sort of Wolverine type card. Name unrevealed. That's interesting. I gather there are different Wendigos, although, depends when you're reading. Hey, here's another good one. Someone invited Nimrod. I always think of, the X-Men episode with Bishop from the first series. It'd be one of the Days of Future Past episodes. Maybe I think it's the first one where Nimrod shows up in the alley. It's Nimrod! You can't just say it. I don't know. I always enjoyed that. This is cool. Nimrod's cool. I always, I dig Nimrod. I like sometimes when he looks a little bit puffier. That's been a trend in the newer comics where they make him quite puffy, sort of like a, it's got that 80s, like it's Marshmallow Man. It's the bubblegum pink. The colors have been toned down, a bit more metallic looking here, and the pink is not quite as bubblegum pink. I like it when it's a bit more pink, but still, that's pretty good. I like that. Nimrod's a good one. We better get this rolling, man. Hey, check this out. Silver Samurai. It's a little bit muted for my taste. That's my only issue with this one. I might have liked a bigger, more imposing figure. I like Silver Samurai. Your mileage might vary. I gather some people think it's a little bit cheesy. Japanese villain who's a samurai, but I think that's cool. I mean, give me that big archetypal stuff. I dig it. Make him silver. Why not? He's got a big sword, although the sword's a little bit downplayed there. Is that? I forget. Is that? Does it have a name? I can't remember. It's not the Muramasa blade. I don't know. That's a pretty good one. They've gone the old rising sun in the background. I don't know. It gives it a nice graphical quality. It's echoed in the design of the costume is the only thing, so it's a little bit repetitive in that regard, but sort of a samurai battle scene. That's kind of nice. Again, a good Wolverine villain. Here we go. Is this? Yeah, it's another Sienkiewicz. I thought it might be the Brood. Brood were never one of my favorites. If you're going for like an alien pastiche, I'm talking Alien the movie, the Xenomorphs, I prefer the you're gonna get me to say it now. Ngarai? I never knew how it was said. Ngarai? I don't know. The demons that were in is it X-Men 143? Kitty Pryde, Home Alone, around Christmas. Stalked by essentially it's Alien in the X-Mansion is what it is. It's the Ridley Scott film. So I prefer those guys, however you say their name. The Brood were a little bit less interesting to me, but obviously the Brood, legendary. I mean, I guess that's the thing. I'm never as big on the X-Men in space. That was never my favorite stuff, and I think there is a class of X-Men fan who's like that. I think it's valid. I think it's legit. You got to keep it. I like Gladiator and some of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard stuff, and obviously the Dark Phoenix is as an all-time classic. But the space stuff, keep it minimal. I think sporadic. Here's a good-looking one. I just like the look of this. Who's the artist? John Van Fleet. I wonder if he's any relation to Lee Van Fleet. That's just a cool-looking card. Gideon is not a character I ever really particularly cared about. Bald guy with a ponytail. Is he one of these guys who's always talking about Mr. Tolliver, whoever that is? I don't know. Not a character I care about greatly, but just a really cool image. Doesn't service the pinup quality of a trading card, but it's dramatic, and it's not a character who I would necessarily care about visually or conceptually. So I think this is a cool card. And at that time, it felt again like a little bit something a little bit different from Marvel, and like the rendering of Marvel characters. Here we got Sienna Blaze, who is probably better known, I would think, in more recent years as Songbird. Thunderbolts are about to become really hot. If you're playing Marvel Snap, it's a Thunderbolts season. There's a lot of talk about the Thunderbolts movie coming up. Although that seems to be a little bit more of a Dark Avengers thing. I don't really know what's going on there. The lineup's a little bit, fair enough. But Sienna Blaze is an original Thunderbolt from the 97 comic, but she was Sienna Blaze. All the Thunderbolts were villains disguised as heroes to capitalize on the disappearance of the Avengers and Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Thor, all those guys. They all disappeared, fighting Onslaught, and to fill that void, the Thunderbolts. And it was, of course, Baron Zemo up to no good. classic comic book run, kind of Marvel's answer to Suicide Squad in a lot of ways, particularly as it developed. Maybe not that initial, not initially. Here's one for you. Sincere, Sinsear. I don't really remember this guy from any comics, to be honest. I don't think I ever. He's something to do with Cable, mercenary from the future known as Sincere. Oh, okay, so that, yeah, so we're talking like maybe X-Force or something. Cool looking card though. Like, it's the kind of thing that makes me. I would suspect even in the comics this guy appeared in, he does not look this awesome. This is the kind of thing that, you know, makes you curious about something, sets you up for a bit of disappointment, you know? But, wow, what a cool looking card. Who's this? Peter Bollinger, I think, is the artist. Very cool. Love, like, the ripping through the metal wall or whatever. A bit of glowing in the background. Suggestive of fire. Yeah, cool character. Reminds me of, like, there's a couple of other characters like that. There was some sort of, like, Nerds or something, like a sweet tie-in that would get advertisements, and there was a guy that was in with, like, the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, Blob, Avalanche, and all that. There was a guy in those that, a bit like that. I didn't really run afoul him much. I think I remember something showing up. Hey, here's a cool one. You know, speaking of X-Force villains, what do we got? We got some schmuck on it. Oh no, it's a bit dented. These are old cards. Some of them have weathered the storm. I had to pull them together. Look, I had some of them in a binder, just sort of higgledy-piggledy. I had some in a crate. Some are floating loose, and I'm missing some. I know I'm missing some. I don't have Beast, which was one of my favorite cards at the time, and I'm missing some of the team cards and stuff. But here we got Wildside, X-Force villain, classic X-Force villain. You know, kind of a classic Rob Liefeld character in the sense that there's sort of there's a hint of like Wolverine to the hair a little bit. He's got the claws. He's sort of like a saber-toothed wild child, kind of pastiche. You know, what is he really? His costume doesn't really tell you a lot about him. I don't know what his deal is. I really only remember him from like early issues of X-Force. He was with the Mutant Liberation Front, but that's a nice looking card. That is a Peter. Who is this? I can't read these damn names. Peter Scanlon? That name rings a bell. Did he do... I think he continued to do trading cards. And I like the smoothness of his style and his figures. The features of the face. There's a nice smooth quality to that. I dig that. That's a good one. We're still in the realm of the Mutant Liberation Front. It looks like we're going to be there for a while. Another good looking card. It's Reaper by what is that? Mark Sasso? Mark Sasso. I like this one. I like this guy's the figure is quite small in the card, but you know, nice dramatic backdrop with the moon. Is that a double moon? I got two of them. I can look. I don't know what's going on because this guy, I don't think he's from another planet. I think he's he's got a Pantu Huragus. I forget what his deal is. He's from somewhere unusual. I remember that. Is he from like Kathmandu? I don't know where he's from. I don't think he's from space though, so I don't know what's going on with that background, but I like this guy's like tight musculature. He's got like real vivid musculature. It's really good. I don't know if you can appreciate it as much like on the screen, but there's a real great like tight anatomy. It's very sound, very, you know, if it's not photorealistic, it's hyper-realistic. That's cool. Reaper was not a character I had a lot of affection for, but in those early appearances, he's always losing his hands. And that was sort of almost like the Who Killed Kenny of the X-Force comics. Another, who did this? Kent Williams is responsible for this. A little bit more abstract rendering of forearm. You know, like, I don't know, he's sort of not the most interesting character. The gimmick is the forearms. It's the era of Goro. He's, does he actually predate Mortal Kombat? I think he does, only just. Like the year before Mortal Kombat, or somewhere around there. So he predates Goro, but, just a big guy with forearms. His name is F-O-R-E. He has F-O-U-R arms. You know, serviceable, but maybe nothing too exciting. We got a Julie Bell of another another MLF character. I think that is sort of a little bit of spatter in the background. Locus. Again, Mutant Liberation Front, kind of cool character. Some of these characters got kicked up again recently with some of the votes for like who would make the X-Men team. Locus was in there. Tempo was in there. I always liked Tempo for the bucket helmet. That's kind of cool. Now we did Mirage earlier, but she gets a villain card as well as Moonstar, and at this point, real name unrevealed. But perhaps unsurprisingly, the character called Moonstar is Danny Moonstar, as I recall. I don't think they pull a swerve. Looking a little bit more mature in the hips there than I remember. You know, what's that? That's one for the dads. I don't know. I'm a little uncomfortable with that, with considering the age. But yeah, Moonstar. Again, not my favorite character, but an interesting sort of development with that character where she's sort of, she's a bad guy for a little while and maybe doesn't quite know where she's at. We're out of the villains, we're into the original team, and these were cards that blew my mind at that time because early 90s, 1994, the Jim Lee redesigns of the adjectiveless X-Men series were really like, they were the be-all end-all. They were in the cartoons. Obviously, in 1994, we're still peak X-Men animated series. The X-Men animated series I don't think they acknowledge clearly, they certainly don't show the original class much. Maybe in the Iceman episode, but I feel like it's not until like the very end where you get to see the original class, and it sort of fudges things like Angel is an original X-Men in the animated series, but then when he first appears, he doesn't seem all that aware of the X-Men. It's sort of, things were maybe a little bit, I don't know. We're not talking about the cartoon. We're talking about trading cards. Love this. I love the classic X-Men. You know, like the Lee and Kirby comics are really great. Fantastic Four is my preferred series for the Lee and Kirby runs, but early X-Men has some really interesting stuff. I like the classic sort of black and gold, blue and gold. And that's just a nice little Cyclops card. I mean, you compare it to the first card of the series. You know, the Optic Blast is a little smaller, but I don't know. Which one's better? Which is the better Cyclops card? I feel like Cyclops is always struggling for a really good card. They often make him look like a bit of a dope. I like that he's just a guy shooting his laser here, whereas this one he's sort of like, ooh, he's sort of like spazzing out like Kramer or something. Got the arm up and everything. I don't know. I like the classic card. Very nice. And so this subset, you know, there you go. You got your X-Men #1 cover with Magneto. The classic. I love that they did this. Just really cool, paying homage to the history, teaching the kids who are getting the trading cards, because I love trading cards that gave me information. You got to remember, back in '94, Wikipedia wasn't even a twinkle in anybody's eye. I don't know what kind of search engines there were in '94 even. Computers were out there. The internet was being discussed, but not widely available. And I think if I'm looking on Encarta, I'm not looking up individual X-Men. So these were cool. Here's a nice Iceman, the classic sort of mushy snowman Iceman from the early run. Very cool. I guess they all have X-Men 1 on the backs. Angel. That's kind of nice. That's kind of nice to see too, because, you know, everybody at that stage is talking about Archangel. I'm trying to think, in '94, did he have the feathery wings back yet? I'm not sure if he did. That might be... Is that after Age of Apocalypse that he gets the feathery wings back? They sort of like crack the metal open and they've regrown? Because the whole point of getting the metal Archangel wings is that he lost his wings, or they got mangled. They got badly injured in the Mutant Massacre or whatever. So I don't know, but yeah, nice to see the classic Angel. I got a soft spot for Angel. I can't really explain it, but like obviously as kids, we're always looking at Angel and thinking like, what does he do? He just sort of flies around. He's got like wings. There's that weird little period where he's got a bazooka, but nobody's buying that. You've gone too far, man. Put the bazooka away. It's too much. But there's some examples of Angel being capable. If you swing by Secret Wars on Infinite Earths, you're going to find that he is surprisingly highly ranked and has had some good success. I don't know. We're not really concerned with that. Nice card. Let's move on. Another classic. I think, do we have the whole team here? We might have the whole team. Beast. You can see Hank McCoy in the background, and it's the classic Beast before he takes the serum that causes the hair growth. the iconic hair growth. He goes sort of like gray, blue. But he used to just have big hands, big feet. He was very nimble. He was very strong, but not, you know, he's not like the Hulk. He's not really Thing, although you can draw the comparisons between X-Men and Fantastic Four and sort of find approximations. He's not really the Thing level. He's just like a big, tough guy. But I like that. Nice. I like it when you get a subdued character who's just getting it done. Jean Grey, aka Marvel Girl. Remember, she was Marvel Girl originally. I think losing the code name was an upgrade for Jean Grey. I think Marvel Girl's a little generic. I don't know, your mileage will vary. She's using her telekinesis to levitate a boulder. That's pretty good. Colors are a little muted on this. I presume Scott Hampton, I presume they're all the same artist. No, they're not. Hey, that's interesting. So, oh, they're actually all different. I didn't notice. Beast is a John Romita Sr. Is that right? Yeah, John Romita Sr. did that. That's kind of cool. How about that? I did not recognize that as John Romita. That's pretty cool. And this one is Scott Hampton. So a little bit muted for me, the colors. I would have liked a more vivid yellow, perhaps. But that's cool. And then you finish out the classics with another Scott Hampton, Professor X. You got to have Professor X before he has the hover chair. That again, frankly, the hover chair is probably an upgrade. It's much more iconic. But I like this. Just the bald guy with his smoking jacket and his pipe, getting it done, getting things rolling for the X-Men, for mutant kind. This is a cool subset. Again, thinking of trading cards as like the new official handbook almost. They're almost like go beyond the handbook in some ways, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of handbooks. I shouldn't say that. But this is the crossovers subset. And you can see here's the Mutant Massacre. Here's Angel getting his wings impaled. Not the first time. Because when the X-Men are encountering the Morlocks, it's Angel again who gets kidnapped by Callisto. And I think he's strapped up like that as well. Crucified in the sewers. It's a bad time for Angel. He doesn't want to be in the sewers. He can't stretch his wings. He probably can't get a good flight going. I know that he has flown in the sewers. I think did he do it when he went back down there and Abomination was there? Is that a 97 issue? I do have that somewhere here. I'm not going to look for it. But this Mutant Massacre, of course, Mutant Massacre is famous for also being the first time we see Sabretooth and Wolverine fighting. So good idea to get that in there in the foreground. I like that they've sort of combined the two of the most recognized events probably from that story. It's not really capturing the massacre of the mutants. It's really just concerning itself with the pretty X-Men. The poor Morlocks, I guess they're represented by Leech, but you know, that's a cool card and really just a super cool way to get some information if you didn't already know it. Tells you the issues even, so if you want to go to your comic shop at the, in 1994, if you got a good one, you might be able to track down some of those issues. That's the kind of thing I definitely would have thought about doing. These issues were probably a little bit too expensive even back then, but like I got that old mentality of like, I don't want to spend more than like $6 on a comic, that kind of thing. I did always have a fascination with X Factor, so I ended up getting some of the early issues of that pretty cheap, but I didn't get the original issues of the Mutant Massacre. Hey, here's another big one. I mean, X-Men really were the kings of the multi-series crossover, so it makes sense that this would be a pretty robust subset. Here's Inferno, which is that's got to be having some relevance to the X-Men 97 cartoon, because here's Madeline Pryor, the Goblin Queen, the clone created by Mr. Sinister lurking in the background, created a clone of Jean Grey. Obviously, it has impact over a long stretch of time. I don't know. I'm assuming the cartoon's going to deal with it pretty briskly. I really like the rendering of the X Factor Cyclops here. I always like that costume. Like, what is the definitive Cyclops? Opinions really vary these days. It's sort of like the John Cassidy Astonishing X-Men. Is that what that was? And then that subsequent, so like Avengers versus X-Men one. They seem to be very popular. I prefer, obviously the Jim Lee one is really good with or without the bomber jacket, but I got a real soft spot for X Factor. I love the X Factor look. I had the X Factor Cyclops action figure. I did enjoy that, but Inferno is sort of all about, you know, Mr. Sinister and the Goblin Queen. Does Inferno spills out? Is that when demons? Aren't there like tie-ins in multiple series where demons start causing trouble? I feel like I'm getting things confused. I'm not thinking 3. What is this? Oh yeah, Extinction Agenda, which was one that I don't know. I wasn't so into the Extinction Agenda stuff. It's sort of it makes sense because it's got like Cameron Hodge and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I wasn't so into that one. I don't know. X-Cutioner's song is probably the one that had me a little bit more jazzed because it's Strife and it's like X-Force and X-Men together. I'm trying to capture the gold. Look at that gold foil. Another good one with Cable and Cyclops. Strife in the background causing all kinds of mayhem. Again, this X-Cutioner's song was only like a couple of years before this series, so I had some of those. Into the team sets, and we got X-Men Gold Team. At this time, you sort of, they tell you that the team is divided into the Gold Team and the Blue Team. I don't know that it ever maintained that strict a division. I feel like a lot of these characters are bleeding between one series and the other. They're intermingling. But here we got Storm and Professor X looking really cool. Interesting rendering by Tristan Shane, who's popping up in a few of these. So this is a subset where you get 3 cards for a team. I've only got 2 here. I think this could be one of the ones I'm missing, but you can see they connect. They make like a triptych with 3 separate cards. So we got Bishop and Jean Grey. I don't know who are we missing. I forget who we're missing from blue. The blue team. I got a double. Whatever. I like that. You got to have like your team subsets. It's interesting because X-Men, in the Marvel sets, you would have lots of teams to choose from. X-Men are kind of like spreading it thin. Here we got Psylocke and Sabretooth, Beast and Gambit. I like this. These are good. I'm definitely missing the third one of these. I think this was the first team I might have completed. I forget who was on that other side. It's Cyclops and somebody. You can see the optic blast going through the background, tying it all together. These are really good. I like the renderings on these. These are by Jim Steranko. How about that? Did not recognize that as Jim Steranko. Fantastic. I really like that. The figures are small, but they're pretty effective. Like that a lot. Next team we got is X-Force, and I think I got all 3 of them here. So here we can, you really get the triptych effect. The single image from 3. I don't know if I can hold 3 cards and still maintain any kind of coherence, but here you go. There you go. That's X-Force. How about that? With sort of like a very ominous background. I don't need to check. That's got to be Dan Brereton, surely. Yes, of course it is. Why would I even doubt it? He's toned down the typical Dan Brereton face. I think Cannonball is the one with the most typical Dan Brereton face. You can see Richter's got a little bit of the stubble, all that, but pretty good. So what do you got? Warpath, Feral, Shatterstar. All right, yeah. Boom Boom or Boomer, Cannonball. Look at that. Let's see the third card. You're really getting your money's worth. Cannonball, Richter, Siren, and Sunspot. What a team. Nice rendering in the black. Powered up Sunspot. I always enjoyed that. The sort of pitch black silhouette man was very effective with like the Kirby dots. Didn't really have them on the card, but fair enough. X Factor, we're missing one of those sadly, but there you go. Multiple Man, Wolf's Bane, Havoc, and of course Polaris. I think Strong Guy and somebody else is on this one. I forget. It's been a long time. Digging those teamed ones, and obviously if you've got your like 9 grid trading card slots, they look real nice lined up together like that. Hey, we got another complete team. Although I say complete team because each card is essentially one character. transitional period maybe for Excalibur, where you got Shadowcat, Kitty Pryde, Nightcrawler, and Rachel Summers Phoenix in that iconic Jean Grey Phoenix costume. Which again, when I think of Rachel Summers, I mean, realistically, she probably spent a lot of time in that red and yellow classic Phoenix attire. I dropped off of Excalibur around that time. So when I think of Rachel Summers, I think of the Hound outfit, the dark red catsuit with the little, I don't think they're spikes. Are they studs? Maybe studs, like running down. We got to get into that X-Men annual, because that's a good one. That's got some of that action going on. But that's the Rachel Summers I think of. Last team, it's not really a team, is it? It's the wedding of Jean Grey and Cyclops, which I think is X-Men 25. I bought that issue off the newsstand at the newsagent, and I believe it's one of those ones where it's actually got like an uncut version of this triptych in the center of the comic. I could be wrong. It'd be interesting if I dig up my issue, if it's still in there. I think that was an issue where the cover came off. Always a tragedy, always a potential wound. Hey, you want to talk about doubles? I got 4 Magic, who, this is the deceased subset. Okay, so that's why you got a superhero card this deep. We're getting into the Deadites, the dead X-Men, who are, I guess there's a series now that is Dead X-Men. All of that's out of whack. Comics and death, horrible situation. They got to get that under control, because death used to be pretty meaningful, used to be quite impactful. So Magic, I guess, had died. Ileana Rasputin was it the legacy virus killed her, and that sort of precipitates a real funk for Colossus, and that's when he leaves Excalibur. I think if it had been a year earlier, maybe 2 years, you would have had Colossus maybe in the Excalibur, or is he after that? I don't know, man. I'm getting lost in X history. Maybe Excalibur's after Fatal Attraction, which is Colossus joins Magneto. He's in a funk. He's feeling depressed. His sister's dead. His girlfriend left him. And he's a big sad Russian. Made of metal. We got Warlock. Is this a Sienkiewicz? You got to get Sienkiewicz to do Warlock. Imagine if they did they got Sienkiewicz doing trading cards and they didn't get him to do Warlock. That'd be madness. It's not the typical Warlock that I think of, though. That's the interesting thing. I guess Sienkiewicz is just like, he's got to keep experimenting, getting more abstract. You can tell it's Warlock straight away, at least. It's a good card. Feels very 90s, very early 90s, maybe late 80s, realistically. But this kind of thing was still hanging around in the early 90s. I feel like this kind of imagery might be a little bit abstract for the average sort of American comic book reader, but I feel like it was very welcome in, like, even children's books of the early 90s, where they were getting a little bit more wild. Just a little bit of the Stinky Cheese Man about it. I don't know. Very nice. These, I like these. So you got the wireframe, but you got the big stamp, deceased. It's sort of like Days of Future Past. You're writing them off. Makes sense that you would follow the deceased card of Warlock with Cypher, and then there's a whole weird business where they came back as sort of like a fused individual. I like this card. It's very solemn. I like that they get the gravestone. They're really hitting the deceased factor on this one. The other ones are sort of like fond memories. With that one, forget about it. He's dead. Goblin Queen gets her card in the deceased slot because at this point she's dead, and it's funny, I think all of these characters are alive now and have been for a little while. Goblin Queen was, more trouble than she was worth. He wanted her off the board, but I guess she's back now. And she's back in X-Men 97. This is a really good rendering. I feel like this, in my mind, is sort of one of the iconic renderings of Goblin Queen, surrounded by goblins. If you like Goblin Queen, check out the Mutant X series from 99-2000, and after that, a lot of good Goblin Queen going on in that one. If you wanted more Goblin Queen when she was off the table. Sebastian Shaw, I don't even remember his death, to be honest. When did he die? Does it tell you when they died? Was once a prominent businessman and the leader of the subversive inner circle of the Hellfire Club, but Sebastian's son, Shinobi Shaw killed him? That's whack. Yeah, don't honor that death. Shinobi Shaw And again, I don't know, if they'd committed to it, it might have worked. I did always think, like, you know, as a lover of the Shinobi video game, I always thought, ooh, who's Shinobi Shaw? What's that about? The comics seem kind of lame, to be honest, though. Mimic! I think he's believed... Oh, he's inactive. Yeah. So this one, you can see, not deceased, just inactive. And he does come back sometime around this. He shows up in Excalibur when they're looking for Professor X, probably 97, somewhere around that. I liked, there were a couple of good issues there. Using the powers of the classic X-Men, because you remember he showed up in... Oh, what issue is it? Is it X-Men 4? It's an early issue. I forget what it is. X-Men 6, 8? I don't know. There's an early issue. Mimic shows up. He can mimic the powers of those around him. And he's another one of those characters. Mutant X will get you more Goblin Queen. Exiles is where you would go to get more Mimic. And he became a bit of a cult sensation sort of around that time. Please excuse me for a moment. So that's kind of nice. Again, one of those characters that around that time was a little bit obscure, so it was nice to see them in a trading card. Dark Phoenix gets a special trading card, and there's a whole heap of madness that ties in with Goblin Queen, I guess. I don't know, clones, Jean Grey. I mean, the joke used to be that Jean Grey dies and comes back, and it only happened a couple of times or something. I don't know, I forget what... Was it even that? Comics are in a bad state with some of that stuff. You got to maintain your fiction. Prioritize good fiction. But that's kind of cool. Nice, just nice to have a cool Dark Phoenix card. Really the evergreen, iconic X-Men story in a lot of ways. A lot of people regard it as like one of their favorites, one of the biggest. For some people, it was an entry point, even decades later, because they collected it and it was available widely before the trade paperback sort of market took off. How cool is this? Who did this? James Sullivan. Good job. That is another nice, really interesting card. Mastermind. You can see there's like the classic dirtbag Mastermind with his little comb over, and then wrapped around him is the fantasy that he would project. That was a key part of his Hellfire Club period. I love this, man. This is a great card. Really cool. A little bit abstract. Getting across his ability to sort of weave illusions, telepathic illusions and stuff. It's really good. And he died pretty close to this, I would think. Was it 93 annual, 92 annual? That's a great one. If we dig into the X-Men 14 annual, then we will have to dig into that other one. That's got X-Cutioner in it too. So I was actually looking at it recently. I forget who the artist is, if it's Larry Stroman or someone like that, but it's got killer art. I got that one like from secondhand store or something like in the early 90s. So it wasn't that old, and it blew my mind at the time. It was sort of like, did I miss like a run of this guy or something? But yeah, here we're talking about the Mastermind card. That's really good. That's a good one. Here's another classic one. Thunderbird, not to be confused with his brother Warpath, who sort of assumes the mantle of the family. Thunderbird from the Giant Size X-Men only lasts very briefly, gets himself killed in action. A little bit controversial, maybe retrospectively. And so Warpath kind of continued the legacy. I think, did they bring Thunderbird back in the last few years as part of the Krakoa stuff and all that? I don't know, but for a while he was sort of one of the big losses. He's almost like, I guess, like in the animated series when Morph dies in the first series, that always reminded me a little bit of this. I wondered if it was inspired by Thunderbird dying with the Giant Size X-Men team. The all new, all different team, maybe. I'm not sure. I can't really remember if I've read that or not. I wish I got that. I never got the Previously an X-Men book. That would have been a really good read. Big subset. It's the... what is the exact title? Wolverine's Greatest Battles. Some of these are really good. Trading cards would often do this. Like Marvel Universe had some famous fights, subsets, and things like that. Somewhat of an inspiration for Secret Wars and Infinite Earths, the comic book Fight Club. You can Google it, you'll find it. This is a cool one. Cyber, a more recent nemesis at this time. Although was Cyber's 90s, I think. So yeah, not only a couple of years old. He was in Marvel Comics Presents, and I'm trying to think, 94. So would he have broken Wolverine's claws, I guess, by this point? Probably. Famously one of the only villains that Wolverine truly fears. That was always like a really big deal, a big selling point. He's coated in adamantium. He's got like some weird toxin in little talons or claws in his gloves. He's big, he's strong, he's unbreakable, and he smashed Wolverine's claws when they were bone. So that was a big deal. That's a good one. You gotta have a Wolverine Hulk card. That's a good one. It's a classic rivalry, and it's the starting point. You can see they've gone the Hulk 180, 181 costume with the little whiskers on the mask and the smaller sort of eye flares. Pretty good, you know. It's like down and dirty in the trenches. We're down in sort of like Wolverine's perspective of things. Hulk is looming over him massively, occupying a lot of the background. That's cool. It's effective. I dig that. Do we have an artist? Is it Dan Lawless? Seems to be. Oh, that's cool. So if you check these out, I guess there's... Oh no. It's just noticed. I thought it might have information about the issues. I don't think they list the issue number, which is a little bit surprising. That's a flaw. You want your famous battles cards to highlight the comic that it occurs in. Give me as much information as you can. Here's another good one. If you're gonna have Wolverine and Hulk is really the classic rivalry, but around this time, Wolverine and Thing become nemesis, and famously, the Secret Defenders, or the new Fantastic Four, Wolverine, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man, and Hulk. They go after the Fantastic Four. Human Torch is a fugitive. They want to know what's going on. They're going to bring him in, you know? It's that kind of thing. You know, I don't know, like it's an honor-bound almost thing. You got to bring your friends in. If your friends go rogue, you got to bring them in, get them sorted, that kind of deal. But then Wolverine goes too far. He snaps. He's held down by Mr. Fantastic. He's going wild, and Thing's there, and he slashes Thing, scars him horribly, and then you get the period where Thing is wearing like a metal helmet. It's weird, easily forgotten, but kind of a big deal as well. It's like one of those sort of big manufactured flashpoints. It's kind of legit. It's kind of wonky. I don't know. Makes a good card though. Love Thing. Love Fantastic Four. You know, I would have liked that clobbering time action. Well, we got 3 of these. I'm pretty sure I had all the battles. I don't know if I still do, but Wolverine, Spider-Man, which was a noteworthy enough conflict that they go to like a bound reprinting, a separate issue just called, I think, Wolverine versus Spider-Man. And I forget, is it issues of Marvel team up? I forget where that happened. And then there was a really cool Eric Larson Marvel Comics Presents story where they might be at odds, but they team up. I love that. 1989, that was an issue. I got Marvel Comics Presents 49 off the rack, which had part of that story, and it's got like the there's a character in there who's a bad guy who's almost like a proto Savage Dragon, but man, the rendering of his Spider-Man in 89 and 90 was pretty good. I like some of the, I think I like some of the early ones a bit more. There's an issue with Punisher. He did the Lawson did the some of the Acts of Vengeance stuff. Great stuff. But yeah, dig this. This is a cool card. Stalking through the tombstones. You know, why not? If you're doing Wolverine battles, you gotta have his famous fight with Silver Samurai. The X-Men animated series with Silver Samurai, the episode was not one of my favorites. It's not bad. It's not bad, but not one of my favorites. The Wolverine in the X-Men animated series actually did a really good Silver Samurai episode, which has there's a rogue component. That series is interesting because that series feels it's not as good as the classic animated series, but they had some interesting stuff going on, and I like the way they build some of their stories and stuff. But Silver Samurai was a good one, and of course we love the Silver Samurai in comics, naturally. I forget, is it an issue of Dazzler I've got somewhere, or Spider-Woman? Was one of the last Silver Samurai series I got. Who's the artist on this, out of interest? Marich or Merrick. I don't know. That's an interesting one. It's a little bit like it's somewhere between a painting and almost like a colored pencil effort. But interesting. Nice to get Silver Samurai on the books. Here's a good one. I always liked this. This is what is that? Peter Hollinger? Is that right? I don't know. Again, wow. Accessible is how I would describe the artwork. Small figures, but well rendered. Very easy, I think, for the common man to see this and be excited. Obviously capturing the famous battle between Wolverine and the Hellfire Club gods from X-Men 181. Is that right? Is that right? No, 131? I think is it 131? Yeah, it's got to be earlier. They've added White Queen there for a little extra drama. Pretty good. Not relevant to the original issue, as far as I recall. I think Wolverine's coming up through the sewers. It's just him and the gods, and he hacks them up, and they become the Reavers later on. That's exciting. That's good comics. I like that. These cyborg Reavers with their sort of amputee injuries caused by Wolverine. What goes around comes around, you knucklehead. But yeah, that's a good one. I like that one. Good famous battle to have in there. Gee, there's a lot of these. Sauron. I feel like they're always there's an impression of a conflict between Wolverine and Sauron that doesn't connect for me. I don't know if it's just because I didn't see the comics though, but never seemed like a real big deal to me. Sauron is a weird outlier. He's almost like he's tied to the Savage Land, I guess, but not really. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Not a bad card. Obviously, like a pterodactyl man is a good graphic conceit. Looks large and in charge, fighting Wolverine. Why not? Another hero-on-hero conflict. It's Punisher and Wolverine, which I presume, particularly with that like leopard skin thing, that's got to be a callback to. I forget what the series is called. There was a mini-series. Is it part of like was it part of like Punisher War Journal, and then did they do like a 2 or 3 part Prestige series or something, or a 3-part miniseries? I forget. A bit of conflict between these characters. Obviously, like early 90s, late 80s. These are like a couple of your breakout characters. Very much 2 characters rooted in sort of the anti-hero movement of the 70s. Very sort of like emblematic of the period. And yeah, I remember at school in 94, we trading cards were really big with like me and some friends. More so basketball cards. We're going to be doing more of that. Check out the trading card arc in the YouTube archive. We got lots of basketball card action going on there, and we're going to have more. But I had like the X-Men cards and stuff, and we did like there was a day to like sell cards, and I was maybe taking it a little too seriously, because I was a guy who was like, I was going to the card stores. There were like full on big card stores around, and I was keeping up with like prices of things and stuff like that. Kids thought they were just gonna like it was like a play money exercise. It was just pretend. I was like trying to run like an actual card store with actual like guidebook prices and stuff. I remember the teacher's son was like a guest, and he was looking, I think, at this card, and I'm like, I don't know what it wasn't crazy. I was asking for like multiple dollars, whereas I think the expectation was to be paying cents. In any event. That is a young man trying to be enterprising. This is a great card. Look at the drama of that. Is this is a guy. Yeah, Mark Sasso. I think this is the guy. Did he do the Reaper card? I've already forgotten, but look at that. It's got to be, because look at that tight. It's that tight muscle, that musculature. The anatomy of it's really good. Good, like, facial expressions. And this is, of course, Shingen Yashida. Yeah, I think it's Shingen Yashida. Anyway, from Wolverine's time in Japan, I was disappointed with the Wolverine movie because, you know, some of the point is that he should be fighting with a sword. The card kind of makes the same mistake. You know, he's using the claws. The whole point is that Wolverine is supposed to be learning discipline. He's supposed to be rejecting his animalistic side and using the civilized weapon of a disciplined man. He's keeps the claws sheathed. He uses the sword. This is a cool graphic it's more egregious in the film that they sort of ignored some of the key sort of thesis of it. This is a really cool card, though. I really like this one. This was always one of my favorites, even back in the day. One of the best. And Kent Williams, I guess, did he do the forearm card? Here we got him with Lady Deathstrike. I'm a little disappointed in this one, personally. Lady Deathstrike is one of my favorite villains. I think she's an awesome villain. This sort of like smeary... I don't know why I think there's something about this painted style that reminds me of like Japanese paintings that I've seen, but I can't articulate why I think that. I mean, there's a little bit of like a classic European style to this as well. Not my favorite rendering of either character, to be honest. You lose the Wolverine costume design and all this, and you really don't even get like a great sense of the hair. Lady Deathstrike is identifiable, but I don't know. I'm not crazy about this card, but of course you had to have a Lady Deathstrike conflict in there. When does that first occur? Because there's an Alpha Flight issue. There's Uncanny X-Men 205, the famous Barry Windsor Smith issue, but there is concurrently Lady Deathstrike in a much more low-key version, pre-cyborg stuff. She's just in samurai gear in Alpha Flight. That's really good. Hey, how about a checklist? Again, pre-internet, you love those checklists. You know what you're hunting. You know what you're missing. You can see this is a well-loved checklist, a little bit dog-eared around some of those corners. That's a shame, but them's the breaks. Hey, how about some premium subsets? And this is sort of where that kind of thing is starting to take off. I always remember, like, Marvel Universe Series 4 was the first time I got a complete series, but I didn't have any of the 2099 subset. So here we got... I don't know what, I think this is just called limited edition subset. You got like more gold foil elements. So Wolverine with his shiny claws and a bit of shiny like debris with these sort of very dramatic painted renderings. And this is a subset of 9 cards that would all match up together. So here we got Professor X doing some business. So he would be, you know, you'd have to turn it sideways in your binder, but you would get sort of the image like this. Wolverine. I got reflections, but yeah, so Professor X, that's a good one. How about a twofer? Gambit and Bishop, that's pretty cool with like some foil background action. Now I saw a guy, I was curious, I looked up, there was a guy on YouTube doing a box break of this set, and he was having a lot of bricking issues. And these caused him a lot of issue because of all the foiling on them. So a lot of damage. I was looking at boxes. I was very curious because I would love to do like a box break. But, you know, boxes, the cheapest box I could find was like over $400. And the risk of bricking worries me. I don't know how you avoid that really. Like, I can't just throw away $400 on a nice idea. Hey, Jean Grey though, that's a nice idea. Again, sort of... pretty decent rendering, all things considered. The pose is not the most flattering for a character, but the action set piece is sort of served, and they do a good job of getting something out of it. Pretty good. And then there was I think there's a few other subsets. There was a Fatal Attractions. Because to me, in my mind, Fatal Attractions was instantly a big deal. I got a couple of the issues off the rack. Is it Uncanny 304, Wolverine 75, oh, and X-Men 25. So those were the 3 that I got pretty quickly, and that really cemented it in my mind as a big deal. So you can see there's Behold Avalon, like a cool Magneto. There's your Exodus paying homage to his new Messiah or whatever, you know. He's the lead acolyte. It's cool to see the main design of the cards with the little like thing here with the logo rendered in this sort of colored foil. Earlier days, it's a very motley sort of finish. It's an interesting one. Earlier days, it's not the full-on hologram. It's just sort of, it's got some texture though. You get the light on different angles, so that's a cool one. And finding these in packs at a time when you didn't know. Oh yeah, check the back. The back's good. So limited edition 6 Fatal Attractions cards. When you didn't know that they were coming, that was real exciting because they're not on the checklist. So it's like a nice surprise. This is a great one to have. The turning of Colossus, X-Men No More. That blew my mind. I was a little bit salty about it, a little disappointed when I read the comic. I didn't believe that Colossus would go bad. And as it plays out, he hasn't really gone bad so much as he's feeling glum. He's hanging out with Magneto. He's actually trying to do the right thing. There's a couple of times where you get a sense of like he's holding the bad guys back a little bit. He's doing some good work, and inevitably he comes back. There's a death in there. Let's not think about it. Colossus is cool. We don't want to lose Colossus. So there you go. That's a good one. And Wolverine hits the bricks because he's lost his adamantium. Exit Wolverine. That's a pretty classic image. I feel like a repeated image where you've got the group of X-Men and one of the members is leaving. I think of the New Mutants issue with Sunspot leaving. I think of there's an Uncanny issue with Jubilee leaving. I guess they all refer back to an earlier one with, I think, Cyclops is leaving. This kind of recalls that, although there was no comic with Wolverine on the cover like that. So X-Men 75, X-Men 25, sorry. X-Men 25, Magneto rips the adamantium out of Wolverine's body. Maybe his most severe act. It's the act that pushes Professor X to permanently put him down. And then in Wolverine 75, because he almost dies. It's pretty dramatic. Like, it's a good, big, impactful sort of moment. Almost dies, wraps it up. He discovers he's got bone claws beneath the adamantium. Which actually, to me, it was very controversial at the time. Obviously, we all wanted to see the adamantium back on the claws. But I actually thought the concept of the bone claws was a good idea. Because the whole point is his whole skeleton is laced with adamantium. So for the claws to actually be organic mutations kind of worked for me. And the bone claws, not iconic, had to be impermanent, but were an interesting twist on things. I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that some other time, but that is the X-Men 94 Fleer Ultra trading card set, at least from my perspective at this time. Like I said, there's definitely some I'm missing. This was a series that I got as many as I could back in the day. I don't know how many packs. I mean, it probably, in reality, it's probably not that much. I don't know how many are missing. I don't know how many packs I actually got over time, but as a kid, you're getting what you can. You're sucking the marrow out of everything as much as you can. And see, like, if you're in the YouTube archive of the Hellhole, you know that I like to bounce around a bit. I have my favorite sort of genres and areas to be in, but I like a certain amount of variety. And like as a kid, I would get as much as I could of multiple things. So I'm grabbing comics. I never subscribed to a particular series. I would just buy things as I found them, as a means of, I just want to get what I can here. I want to try some of that. I want some of that. Like I'm trying to get as much as I can. So I would get X-Men cards. I would get Spider-Man cards. I would get basketball cards, NBA. I would get, like all kinds of stuff. So I've come across some surprising things. I think I've already mentioned. Somewhere along the way, I wound up with at least a packet of Baywatch cards. I think that must have been like a giveaway thing, because that's one thing I did not seek out. I don't know. Although in more recent years I have watched Baywatch and it's actually not bad. And that theme song, you want to wake up to the Baywatch theme. That's what I'm telling you. If you've got a means, like on your phone or whatever, you're using your phone for like an alarm. If you're using that to wake up, do yourself a favor. Get the Baywatch theme as a ringtone that you can set to wake up to. You will get up and you will be pumped. You will be ready. That is a great song. I'm talking about the Baywatch TV theme. This has not been Baywatch though. That's the following year, 95. Then we'll talk about Baywatch, because there is the like summer X-Men subset where they're at the beach. You got there's a Wolverine barbecuing, or Iceman's barbecuing. You got the girls in the bikinis, the dudes hanging out. Is Beast like fooling around or something? I followed. I loved X-Men 94. Got as many of these as I could. But then back in those days, obviously the trading cards stores were around, or at least a few. But even their supplies would dry up. It's what blows my mind that I'm still able to get these boxes where I'm doing like NBA box breaks. Some Marvel sets are available, very pricey. superhero stuff seems to go much higher. I'm not sure if it's because of scarcity or it's just exploiting the films and the popularity of that stuff. But it still blows my mind that these things are available because obviously back in the day, boxes dry up and you got to move on. So after X-Men 94, there was 95. Good set again. To me, this is the best set. If you're checking this out in like the YouTube archive or whatever, if you're here live with me, I'm live on Twitch, pal. We're live. Drop a comment. Tell me what do you think the best cards are? Maybe some like just if you've just seen this for the first time. Let me know what you think of the ones that I've got. You think there's some standouts? Or are there some I'm missing? There's some cards that I think I've never seen from this set. For whatever reason, this isn't... I guess these days you can just go online and look at the whole set, although it loses some of the magic. And like doing the 1990 NBA hoops, I really enjoyed that. Just the magic of, what are you going to get? And then you get to see the card in real life. It's just kind of nice. I like this stuff. I don't know what's going on with trading cards now. I was curious if I wanted to see some like current Marvel Universe cards or something, like what would that cost? And I'm seeing like boxes. You get like a box where there's 4 packs, 5 cards in a pack. It's like $300 or something. I don't understand what's going on with trading cards. And then I look them up. They kind of look like shit to me. As far as trading cards go, like this is a great series. I love the design of the series, the dress of the series in general, but some of the artwork is great. As a collective image, as like a mosaic when you get all those cards in your sleeves. Great looking series. It's like individual images, but they mesh well in an interesting way. I don't know. I think this is a great series. I hope you've enjoyed revisiting this very nostalgic sort of period. I got to try to find some of those missing ones. We're going to be back. We're going to be doing more in the trading card arc. I got this out of the way because now I'm ready to do some more NBA stuff, and we're going to box break. That's the big thing. We got some box breaking to do. I'm looking forward to that. NBA is a little bit more affordable, and I'm just stupid enough to go down that road. Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer Timeline is in the archive as well, so make sure you check that out. Chapter 12 just went live last night. We got Scorpion. Yeah, if you're not so into Scorpion, don't worry about it, because if you've seen some of these chapters, you know that there are a whole lot of characters involved. It's an ensemble. Scorpion is just like the character you would play as. He's the representative of the chapter, but we got like Jade in there. Katana's a big component. We got stuff in Outworld. The Scarred Warlord is revealed. If you were curious about that, I think you could guess. You could guess who the Scarred Warlord is, but we finally confirm it. We lock it in. It's a little bit cheesy, if I'm honest, but we went there, and we got all things going on. Chapter 13 is going to be a good one. It's going to be relevant to what somebody was asking in the comments, and then 14 and 15 will finish it up. So we're almost there. We just got 3 more chapters to go. We're up to 12 at this point. I'm working on 13 now, just finishing it up. Those things, they take a little bit of effort. It's not always obvious, but we'll get to more of that and probably some other stuff. And like I said, I want to look at some comics. We got to do that sometime. Take a page from the Cartoonist Kayfabe book maybe and do something. I just worry that, I don't want to be more boring than I already am, and I'm not sure if I have enough to say, but this was a great issue. This was, like I said, my first X-Men issue, so maybe we'll get into that. I will see you sometime. Thanks for hanging out, if indeed you did, and smash the like, the subscribe. Genuinely leave a like, and have something good to say. Just drop a comment. Just say, hey, cool stuff. I like X-Men. Just say something nice. Let me know if you're checking out the Mortal Kombat 1 Lucifer Timeline stuff, and if you're invested in the story, maybe comment on a detail of the story. Just give me something to chew on, and I'll be back real soon. Hopefully feeling energetic and having a good time. Digging being back in the world of X-Men. I still don't know if I'm going to see X-Men 97 or when. Big stuff going on there. I saw an interview with Cal Dodd and somebody else, and it was good. Anyway, I'll see you guys some other time. Shut up. Get moving. I gotta get out of here. Adios, amigos.